Press. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We are beginning. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The ceremony will open with an investment promotion video crafted by Enterprise Armenia.
Welcome to Armenia. With a constant economic growth, and a strategic location connecting east to west, north to south, with diversified economic relations. And access to major markets. With a secure environment that feels just like home. Armenia grants an ample of opportunities for investors. That many capitalize on. Our skilled workforce is ready to succeed in the most challenging tasks. Our desire for science and enthusiasm for high technology are on hand to transform your investments into innovation. Our fertile soil and favorable climate are here to support your agribusiness. Our thousands-years-old cultural heritage and stunning landscapes are on the scene to take any tourist's breath away. Our rich traditions in winemaking, food processing, and textile industries are making new success stories that you can be a part of. Armenia. Invest in a future of possibilities.
For foreign investors, I think few factors should be taken in consideration, which I find it very much in Armenia. The number one factor, I think, it's the political stability. Armenia had gone through a very testing time. During the last 10 years, I have been coming to visit this country. It has survived, it has thrived, and I think Armenia had gone out of all these tests stronger and more adorable. The other things, I think, is the manpower. I think the manpower here will train, dedicated, and highly educated. So the manpower availability is here, and it's very committed manpower.
First of all, it's all about people. Motivated, talented, creative, educated, with high potential to learn and work with multinational teams with a good command of English and ability to adapt. Second is the facilitated process of business establishment in Armenia, especially considering the recent developments with the relocations from neighboring country. It is now easy to do. And the third is the favorable environment of working with the government and addressing the issues that business have directly, which is very important aspect of improving the business environment and addressing legislative improvements.
So set up business in Armenia is very easy, process is very easy, friendly taxation, easy immigration policies, and geographical location is very good here. That is why it is very good to set up work in Armenia.
Currently, Armenia provides a wide range of opportunities to local and foreign investors. We have attractive tax environment in Armenia, skilled workforce, and also different government projects.
We are presented this Renco Group, that is an Italian company, that is here since more than 20 years, and we have chosen Armenia since the very beginning of the development of this country. We are present here and will be present here for years. This is the choice we made because Armenia is developing. It's a country that may have opportunity not only in the infrastructure side, but also in the plant production and power plant production where we are. We are very keen to be here, and as a Renco choice, everywhere we start a project, then we build in our structure.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Armenian Investment Outlook session within the 33rd Annual Meeting and Business Forum of EBRD. Today's session promises to be both insightful and inspiring. Now, please welcome His Excellency, Mr. Vahagan Khachaturian, the President of Republic of Armenia, who will be delivering his opening speech. Please, Mr. President.
Շնորհակալություն։ Ձերդ գերազանցություն, Տիկին նախագահ, պետական պաշտոնյաներ, հարգելի կառավարության անդամներ, ազգային ժողովի պատգամավորներ, հարգելի հյուրեր, սիրելի հայրենակիցներ։ Նախ եւ առաջ շնորհավորում եմ բոլորիս վերակառուցման եւ զարգացման Եվրոպական բանկի կառավարիչների խորհրդի 30-րդ տարեկան հանդիպումն իրականություն դարձնելու արդիվ։ Սա բացառիկ եւ ինչու ոչ պատմական իրադարձություն է։ Մեր երկիրը հյուրընկալում է նման հեղինակավոր ֆինանսական կառույցի տարեկան հանդիպումը, որն ի դեպ առաջինն է մեզ համար, բայց վստահաբար ոչ վերջինը։ Բանկի տարեկան հանդիպման անցկացումը մեր երկրում համարում ենք հարգանքի եւ վստահության վառ դրսեւորում։ Համոզված ենք, որ պատվով ավարտին կհասցնենք այս առաքելությունը։ Եվ հուսով ենք նոր նշաձող սահմանել տարեկան հանդիպումների կազմակերպման գործընթացում։ Հայաստանի Հանրապետության եւ վերակառուցման եւ զարգացման Եվրոպական բանկի միջև համագործակցության շրջանակը հիրավի ընդարձակ է։ Բանկը Հայաստանում խոշոր ինստիտուցիոնալ ներդրողներից է։ Հայաստանի համար առանցքային գործընկեր։ Այսօր, երբ ետ հայացք ենք նետում, հպարտանում ենք մեր ընդհանուր ձեռքբերումների, տարբեր ոլորտներում համատեղ ջանքերի հաջողությունների եւ առաջին հերթին աճող փոխանցման համար։ Բանկը մասնակցել է Հայաստանում 200-ից ավելի ծրագրերի ֆինանսավորմանը։ Հայաստանի պորտֆելի 80%-ը բաժին է ընկնում մասնավոր հատվածին, ինչը տպավորիչ ցուցանիշ է։ Ուրախ ենք արձանագրել, որ այս տարիների ընթացքում կենսական ուղղություններով նշանակալի արդյունքներ են արձանագրվել։ Արդյունավետ համագործակցության երկարամյա տարիների ընթացքում ձեռնարկվել են մի շարք նախաձեռնություններ, որոնք նպաստել են նաև Հայաստանի տնտեսության ակտիվացման ու զարգացմանը։ Խիստ կարևորում ենք կառույցի աջակցությունը փոքր եւ միջին ձեռնարկությունների զարգացման, ֆինանսական հասանելիության ապահովման, ենթակառուցվածքների զարգացման ոլորտներում։ Բանկն իր մեծ ներդրումն է ունեցել Հայաստանի ֆինանսական համակարգի կայուն զարգացման գործում։ Վստահ ենք, որ մեր համագործակցությունը վերակառուցման զարգացման Եվրոպական բանկի հետ կամրապնդվի եւ ֆինանսական հատվածի զարգացման ու ֆինանսների հասանելիության բարելավման բանկի ռազմավարական ծրագրերը միայն կընդլայնվեն։ Մեկ այլ բացառիկ հնարավորություն է Հայաստանի ներդրումային հեռանկարների այս նիստը, որը միտված է բացահայտելու մեր երկրի ներուժը եւ անավելացված արժեքը, որ Հայաստանը կարող է բերել մեր հարավային Կովկասի տարածաշրջանին, այն դարձնելով ել ավելի գրավիչ արտաքին աշխարհի եւ ներդրողների համար։ Երբ խոսք է գնում Հայաստանի տնտեսության զարգացումներից, ապա կարևոր է ընդգծել, որ վերջին տարիներին Հայաստանի տնտեսության զարգացման մեծ թափ է հավաքել, գրանցելով բարձր միջինում 9% աճ։ Եվ չնայած Հայաստանի կառավարության ջանքերին, զուգահեռ օբյեկտիվորեն արտաքին գործոններն են դրական ազդեցություն ունեցել։ Մասնագետների շրջանում հստակ համաձայնություն կա, որ մեր տնտեսական աճի ներուժը բարձրացել է։ Դրան մեծ նպաստ են բերում Հայաստանի կառավարության հավակնոտ տնտեսական աջակցության ծրագրերը, որոնք միտված են դավարկելու տնտեսության բարդությունը եւ խթանելու մեծ ավելացված արժեք ստեղծող ներքին եւ օտարերկրյա ներդրումներով աշխատող արտադրությունները։ Առանցքային է նաեւ վերջին տարիներին աննախադեպ ցնցումների պայմաններում Հայաստանի Հանրապետության կառավարության եւ Կենտրոնական բանկի մակրոտնտեսական կայունության ապահովման ջանքերը, որը ցանկացած երկրում ներդրում կատարելու գրավչության կարևոր հենասյուներից է եւ որի շնորհիվ հնարավոր է եղել պահպանել բարձր աճի տեմպերն ու գրանցել ցածր գնաճ, ինչը բացառիկ արդյունք է աշխարհի մասշտաբով։ Ինչ վերաբերում է զարգացման հիմնական ուղղություններին, ապա ինչպես հուշում է այս նիստի խորագիրը, այն ընդհանուր առմամբ կլինի գիտության, կրթության եւ բարձր տեխնոլոգիաների ուղղվածությունը։ Հայաստանը նպատակադրել է զարգացնել այնպիսի տնտեսություն, որը մի կողմից աշխարհին կառաջարկի տեխնոլոգիական եւ նորարարական արտադրանք, իսկ մյուս կողմից մեծ թափով կառուցվող եւ արդիականացվող իր ենթակառուցվածքներով զգալիորեն կնպաստի տարածաշրջանի առևտրային հոսքեր սպասարկելու կարողությունների բարձրացմանը։ Մենք փորձում ենք տեղորոշվել աշխարհի տնտեսական քարտեզի վրա հիմնովին նոր գիտելիքահենք միջավայրի ձևավորման շնորհիվ, շեշտը դնելով կրթության, գիտության եւ հետազոտության վրա, որպես դրա վառ վկայություն Հայաստանի կառավարությունն արդիականացնում է կրթական ենթակառուցվածքները դպրոցների եւ մանկապարտեզների լայնածավալ շինարարությամբ եւ բարեփոխում կրթական համակարգի բոլոր օղակները։ Մեկնարկել է նաեւ Բեկումնայի նոր ակադեմիական քաղաքի կառուցման ծրագիրը, որը նպատակ ունի բարձրացնելու բարձրագույն կրթության որակը եւ ձևավորել հետազոտությունների եւ մշակումների զարգացման էկոհամակարգ։ Հայաստանի բարձր տեխնոլոգիական արդյունաբերությունը, որը նորարարության առաջնագծում է, ճանապարհ է բացում դեպի համաշխարհային շուկաներ։ Ոլորտի լավագույն ավանդույթներն այս ժամանակաշրջանում վերաճել են մի միջավայրի, որտեղ համատեղ գործում են մի կողմից այնպիսի համաշխարհային տեխնոլոգիական խաղացողներ, ինչպիսիք են Nvidia-ն, Synopsys-ը, Siemens-ը, AMD-ն, Adobe-ը, Dell-ը եւ այլք, իսկ մյուս կողմից այստեղ ծնունդ առած այնպիսի հաջողակ ստարտափներ, ինչպիսիք են Piscart-ը, Service Titan-ը, Yerevan NN-ը եւ այլոք։ Հավատացած ենք, որ տարածաշրջանում փոխգործակցությունը խորացնելու նպատակով անհրաժեշտ է կենտրոնանալ ենթակառուցվածքային նախագծերի գործարկման ու համագործակցության ուղղությամբ, ինչպիսիք են տրանսպորտային ցանցերը, էներգետիկ համակարգը եւ հեռահաղորդակցությունը։ Լինելով արևմուտքի, արևելքի, հյուսիսի եւ հարավի երկրները կապող եզակի դիրք ունեցող ռազմավարական տարածաշրջանում մենք նաեւ կարեւորում ենք տարածաշրջանում երկարատև խաղաղության հաստատման անհրաժեշտությունը, որի կարևոր նախապայմաններից են տարածաշրջանում հակամարտությունների հաղթահարումն ու հանգուցալուծումը, Այս համատեքստում կարևորում ենք Ադրբեջանի հետ ներկա սահմանազատման գործընթացը։ Մենք նաև գտնում ենք, որ խոշոր ենթակառուցվածքային ծրագրերը Հարավային Կովկասի տարածաշրջանում կարող են լուրջ համախմբող եւ ինտեգրող գործոն հանդիսանալ տարածաշրջանի երկրների համար։ Միայն Հարավային Կովկասի բոլոր երկրների մասնակցության, բոլոր կողմերի կենսական շահերի համադրմամբ մենք պատմական հնարավորություն կունենանք ստեղծելու համագործակցության, փոխկապակցության, բարգավաճման համար անհրաժեշտ նախադրյալներ։ Այս համատեքստում կցանկանայի նշել, որ մեկնարկել ենք խաղաղության խաչմերուկի ռազմավարական նախաձեռնությունը, որը միտված է վերականգնելու համագործակցությունը տարածաշրջանում եւ ենթակառուցվածքներն ապաշրջափակելու միջոցով ակտիվացնելու տնտեսական, քաղաքական եւ մշակութային կապերը բոլոր երկրների միջով։ Հյուսիս-հարավային ճանապարհային միջանցքի ներդրումային ծրագիրն այս նախաձեռնության կարևոր մասն է եւ որում մեծ ներ ունի նաեւ վերակառուցման զարգացման եվրոպական բանկի հետ համագործակցությունը։ Խորհրդանշական է, որ մենք այսօր այս նիստին ամրագրելու ենք այդ համագործակցությունը համապատասխան վարկային համաձայնագրի կնքման միջոցով։ Այս ամենին մեծ թափ կարող է հաղորդել միայն արդար հասարակության ձևավորումը եւ այդ արժեքների տարածումը մեր տարածաշրջանում։ Վերջին տարիներին Հայաստանի առաջնահերթություններից է ժողովրդավարության եւ օրենքի գերակայության ամրապնդումը, արդարադատության ոլորտի բարեփոխումները, մարդի իրավունքների եւ հիմնարար ազատությունների պաշտպանությունը։ Մեծ թափով ձեռնամուխ ենք եղել արդարադատության լայնածավալ բարեփոխումներ անելու գործին, համատարած վերափոխելով դատական համակարգը եւ կոռուպցիայի դեմ պայքարի ինստիտուցիոնալ համակարգը։ Նշված բոլոր ուղղությունները ճանապարհ են հարթում դեպի այնպիսի առաջադեմ միջավայր, որտեղ խաղաղ եւ բարգավաճող Հայաստանն ու Հարավային Կովկասը իրենց մեծ նպաստը կբերեն աշխարհի տնտեսական զարգացումներին, բնակչության բարեկեցության բարձրացմանը եւ գլոբալ մարտահրավերների հաղթահարմանը։ Բոլորիս մաղթում եմ արգասաբեր աշխատանք։ Շնորհակալություն։
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, please join me extending a warm welcome to the esteemed President of European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, Ms. Odile Renaud-Basso.
Good morning, President Kachaturian and Governor Ovachinian, and ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, and I'm very pleased, if I may say so, to welcome you here in Yerevan. I'm welcoming you because this is our annual meeting, but I really want to pay tribute to our real host, which is Armenia and the Armenian authorities, for their hospitality and the very nice organization of this annual meeting and business forum event. Today presents a great opportunity to promote Armenia's investment potential to the world. And it is commendable to see the country's recent democratization efforts and the solid commitment from the authorities, and we just heard about that, to pursue significant reforms. We have indeed seen strong progress made on transparency in politics as well as on freedom of speech. And there is a vibrant business community in Armenia, and we are proud to be supporting the country's private sector and economy. The bank has overall, the EBRD has overall invested more than 2 billion in Armenia since we started, and over the past 5 years only we have invested some 640 million euros, 80% in the private sector. This year alone, for 2024, we foresee an unprecedented volume of investment up to 500 million euros, and that will be the historical level for our investment in this country. This is a reflection of our strong cooperation with both the public and the private sector in the country. If I think about our activity here, it rests on 5 pillars, which also reflect the potential of the country, and I will look at each of these 5 pillars. The first one is information technology, then resilience of the financial sector, the business climate, the green ambition, and the regional connectivity. So I will start with information technology, which is a field in which Armenia has strong expertise. Thanks to its human capital, competitive operating costs, and a strong diaspora network, Armenia has attracted the interest of multinational companies. Companies like Siemens, and we had a testimony before, NVIDIA, and many others have found a vibrant home here. We stand ready at the bank to support Armenia in its ambitious digital transformation with investments and policy advice that enables innovation and progress. I visited TUMO Center yesterday, and we had an event there, attending an event with a special guest, Mr. Nubar Afayan, to celebrate significant achievement of young people in the country. And we had some presentation from young students about willing to develop their businesses, very innovative, very entrepreneurial, and that was very impressive and inspiring. I was really amazed to see such creativity and potential. The second focus we have in Armenia is the financial sector, which is very resilient. Armenia's financial sector has demonstrated a solid level of resilience for the past several years. This stems from fiscal and monetary policy measures which are prudent, and we have had a number of productive collaborations with the Central Bank of Armenia focusing on the domestic money market in order, for example, to develop financing in local currency. The ISDA agreement of 2021 was a good example of EBRD's impact on deepening the financial market in the country, and we are also continuously working with local partner banks for expanding financial opportunities for the private sector. In the next 2 days, or in the ongoing 2 days, we will sign 8 additional credit lines, including a very innovative credit line we signed yesterday, which is a portfolio risk-sharing instrument with Akba Bank. And on this front, I just want to thank our donor, the EU and Sweden, for their ongoing and generous support that makes such partnership possible. We just signed with the Vice President of the Commission also an agreement to develop capital market in Armenia. The third pillar of our activity in the country is the business climate. And here I would like to pay tribute and to highlight the role of the Investment Council in Armenia. Its key mission is to facilitate dialogue between the private and public sector. It's funded with the support of the UK Good Government Fund and has been implementing crucial reforms in the past 17 years in support of the investment climate. These include tax simplifications for businesses, subsidies for high-tech advancements, and labor code reforms. And I understand there is ongoing reflection on how to go beyond. The strong partnership with the government, donor community, and private sector has made that platform a great success, and we have experience of other investment councils in other countries. It doesn't always work so well. So I think this is a great example of success. And we will continue to focus on these reforms. Recently, our colleagues from the European Union and the World Bank have also expressed interest in working with the Investment Council, and this will be a new area of collaboration for us. Our fourth focus is the green agenda in the country. Yerevan was one of the first pilot cities that joined EBRD's Green Cities framework. So it was really one very successful and important pilot city for us. This framework, Green Cities framework, aims to foster partnerships with local municipalities to prioritize climate investments for sustainable urban spaces. And we had a CNG bus project in the city which supports sustainable transformation, which is a good example of the city's green track record. EBRD's investment over the past 5 years have contributed to an estimated reduction of more than 210,000 tons of carbon emission per year in the country. This is equal to taking more than 500,000 cars off the country's road, so quite a significant impact. In the renewable energy, we were delighted to support the landmark solar power plant in the Metz-Maastricht municipality, which will reduce emission by 40,000 tons of carbon, and we stand ready to do much more in support of the renewable agenda in these countries. Our fifth and final focus is regional connectivity. The war on Ukraine enhances the growing demand for regional connectivity linking Central Asia, South Caucasus, and Europe to ensure stability in international trade between Europe and Asia. And this, in turn, is making the South Caucasus region, and Armenia in particular, into an attractive link for international trade and investment. Investment in maintenance and new projects in the transport sector are key to fostering this regional connectivity, which is so much needed. And this, in turn, will accelerate growth and diversify the private sector. So EBRD has been supporting Armenia to rehabilitate and develop infrastructure to enhance connectivity and trade. One of our landmark projects was the expansion of the border crossing between Armenia and Georgia. This brought significant impact for the regional connectivity, creating a more efficient economic transport corridor. And today, I'm very pleased to share with you that we will sign in a few minutes 2 more important projects that will enhance the country connectivity. As part of this investment outlook session, we will be signing a €236 million loan for the construction of a new southern section of the Sisian-Karajan Road. This will be the largest project for EBRD's history in the country, in Armenia. And the total project, with financing from our partners as well, exceeds €1 billion. Dear guests, Armenia continues to remain resilient in the face of many adversities. The economy continues to perform well in 2023. GDP increased by 8.7% on the back of very strong export demand, double-digit growth of construction, hospitality, and information and communication services. At the end of last September, the country suffered a major refugee crisis. The way it was dealt with this emergency in such a short period was admirable. To provide support, we designed the Armenia Refugee Response Plan to promote human capital development and expand opportunities for refugees and locals. And as ever, our donors play an important role in this program. However, many challenges remain, and that will require medium and long-term development interventions. The refugees must be integrated in the labor market, and the country must enhance human capital development. The infrastructure must also be strengthened and improved to meet the demand of the influx of refugees. Holding this event, this annual meeting in Armenia, is a tribute to our shared achievements. My hope, and my sincere hope, is that others will now follow in our footsteps and join us in investing in Armenia's future. I really invite investors to do so. The window of opportunity to forge long-lasting partnerships with this country is now wide open. And I'm confident that this event will shed a shining light on the country's great potential and attract even greater flows of foreign direct investment. I wish you every success. Thank you very much. Merci. And thank you once again for your hospitality. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, thank you for your inspiring opening remarks. I would like to announce that on this day, 5th of May 2024, the loan agreement in the amount of €236 million is being signed between the Republic of Armenia and European Bank Reconstruction and Development for North-South Road Corridor project. To begin the signing ceremony, on behalf of Republic of Armenia, I would like to invite the Minister of Finance, Mr. Vahe Hovhannisyan, and on behalf of European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, the Managing Director of Sustainable Infrastructure Group, Ms. Nandita Parshat. Please. Our congratulations on the successful signing ceremony. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Nandita Parshat. Please.
Your Excellency, President Kachurian, Madam President Odile Renaud-Bassot, Minister Hovhannisyan, and esteemed government officials and guests. It is really a privilege to be here at the Investment Outlook session for our gracious host, Armenia, and to sign this very important financing for the construction of the southern section of the Sisyan-Kajaran Road, a project which in itself is a major investment, but will also hopefully enable and stimulate much more investment, trade, and prosperity for the people of Armenia. As we heard from both presidents, this project is a strategic priority for Armenia and its connectivity and access to Europe and beyond. A key element of the North-South corridor, but also the extended trans-European transport network, and why it is also part of the flagship European Union program of the Global Gateway. Let me take this opportunity to thank our partners in this project, the Government of Armenia, and our co-financiers for the project, the European Investment Bank and the Asian Development Bank. Our special gratitude to the donors who supported the extensive project preparation, the European Union and the EBRD's Special Shareholders Fund. Finally, I would like to thank and congratulate the teams from the various parts of the Government of Armenia and the EBRD who have worked very hard to get us to this signing, and who I know are going to be working even harder to get this project to the successful implementation that it requires. Thank you.
Honorable guests, moving future, I would like to bring your attention to the presentation of Armenian investment climate, which will be delivered by our colleague, Mr. Harutyunyan. Mr. Harutyunyan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, everyone watching us online, good morning. I'm Edi Karutunyan, head of the PR and Marketing Department at Enterprise Armenia, and today I've got the utmost pleasure to present to you the investment climate of Republic of Armenia. A country with a quiet strategic location, potentially connecting east to west, north to south. In this context, the government of Republic of Armenia from 2018 has already built, rebuilt, and reconstructed over 2,100 kilometers of roads. And of course, you're well aware of we're implementing the North-South road corridor. But first, I want us to take a look at the economic development dynamics of Armenia, some microeconomic data. So, as mentioned earlier today, the Armenian GDP had a constant growth of 9% in average annually. Of course, we had a setback in 2020, but that was more of a global phenomenon caused by COVID-19. Right after COVID-19, the Armenian GDP continued to have a rapid recovery, and already in 2022, we had an all-time record high GDP growth of 12.6%. That momentum continued also in 2023, where we had 8.7% GDP growth. The Armenian GDP is also well diversified and well positioned for future growth. As you can see on the screens, a big share goes to services and trade, where IT and tourism industries respectively are booming. And at the same time, agriculture, trade, and industry, of course, have their fair shares. The Armenian government's target for 2024 real GDP growth is 7%. And in comparison with previous year, the economic activity in the country grew by 9.4% in 2023. We're also witnessing positive dynamics in demographic data across all sectors. If we take a look at the working age population in Armenia, we'll see that most of the share goes to the middle age, meaning that, for example, people making up from 30 to 49 years old account for 44% of employees in Armenia. The average monthly salary in the country is $676, but of course that's very much average, so that differs from sector to sector. Further, we have had drastic decrease in unemployment rates too in Armenia. So as you can see on the charts, from 2020 on average, Armenia has had 5% average employment growth. The employee ratio is 51% approximately for female and 49% approximately for male. And I think that's beautiful, to be honest. So further, the country has also registered quite impressive indexes in international ratings that do review the country's business environment. So for example, the OECD FDI Regulatory Restrictiveness Index grants Armenia the 9th position among 83 countries, including OECD participatory countries. And the Economic Freedom Index of Armenia, given to Armenia by the Heritage Foundation, is the 47th position among 76 countries. The country is known for a number of advantages, such as inexpensive, well-educated, skillful workforce that is also reflected in different indexes. For example, the Global Talent Competitiveness Index, we have among all nations 55th position, which is not bad as well. Further, as again mentioned today, the country is known for its microeconomic stability, for reliable and stable financial system. And here on the screens, you can see the big three financial agencies, financial rating agencies with their respective ratings for Armenia. Here I want to mention that all of them have reaffirmed stable outlook for the country. At the same time, the financial assets distribution in the country is shown on the left side of the screen, and as you can conclude, the majority of the assets goes to commercial banks, where 83% belongs to them. Let's move forward and speak about the legislation, because undoubtedly, that would be impossible to have these ratings, this economic growth, without a business-oriented and solid environment in the country that also accounts for, it's connected to the legislation that the country pursues. Overall, in this sense, I have to mention that the Armenian government pursues open door policy. And to understand what that means, we're going to go through some of the main pillars of FDI legislation. First, equal treatment. What does this mean? Meaning that anyone doing business in Armenia, including any nation from any background, gets the exact same treatment as us, the nationals. There are no restrictions around any sector, almost no restrictions around sectors and the geographic locations. And you have an ownership right. So a foreigner doing in Armenia has the 100% right to have an ownership of its legal entity, and the legal entity registered in Armenia by a foreigner has the right to have 100% ownership over the land and have long lease contracts of both property and the land. At the same time, as a double-layer mechanism of security for international investors, Armenia is a reliable partner in a number of multinational mechanisms, such as Armenia is a member of Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, and Armenia is also a signatory of the International Convention of Investment Disputes. This is not all. Again, within the logic of continuously improving the business environment and investment climate in the country, the Armenian government continues to always review the tax policy, trying to all the time provide more and more favorable regime. Even though the country is considered as one of the most favorable tax regimes among emerging markets. So to take a look at these dynamics, I want to mention that within the last 3 years, the profit tax in Armenia has decreased from 20% to 18%. The personal income tax has decreased from 23% to 20%. We have 20% value-added tax, 5% dividend tax, which you won't be paying if you're going to reinvest, and property tax in the country is at its lowest, at maximum 1%, lowest in the region, I mean. Again, this is not all. So within the context of having a better environment, both for local and international investors, the government of Armenia has presented and pursues a comprehensive set of tax incentives at state support programs, 18 state support programs. They do differ in their character, so we have general ones that goes across different sectors and geographic locations, and we have ones that are sector-specific. Just a few examples. So a tax incentive that applies to any type of business activities. If you are thinking of doing business in bordering communities of Armenia, you will be exempt from value-added tax, personal income tax, and profit tax. A state support program, investors investing in Armenia can get up to 20% return on their investments in the form of infrastructure. And sector-specific ones. Now, some of our prominent sectors, let's say agriculture, that accounts for 8.4% of our GDP, gets namely 3 sector-specific incentives and 9 state support programs. The high-tech sector, that had a booming production growth last year, 42% in comparison to previous year, gets a solid support from the government. Healthcare also, for recently adopted state support program for clinical trials and bioequivalence studies, you can get up to 50% of return on your investments. And of course, these are just some examples. I would love to mention that me and my colleagues are at the hotel, at the event venue, and at your disposal or online anytime you'd like. We would like to give you consultancy for any sector-specific inquiries. Now, I would like us to move forward and take a look at a no less important pillar to take into account while investing in Armenia or thinking of doing business in Armenia. That's the multi-vectoral economic policy that the Armenian government pursues. While it might seem that the Armenian market is limited to 3 million consumers, actually, the country can serve as a unique gateway to major markets. How? Armenia has a comprehensive and enhanced partnership agreement with the European Union, where we do enjoy the most favored nation regime. Armenia also has trade and investment framework agreement with the United States of America, and it's not a secret that from 2015, the Republic of Armenia is a member at the Eurasian Economic Union, where we have unrestricted and unlimited access to 184 million population. Further, we have free trade agreements with a number of countries, including all of the CIA countries and Georgia. We also have free trade agreements within the framework of the Eurasian Economic Union with countries such as Vietnam, Singapore, Serbia, and Iran. Armenia enjoys a GSP regime for 3,500 names of products with Switzerland, USA, Japan, Norway. And at the same time, it is no less important to mention that we have agreements on avoidance of double taxation with 42 countries, and treaties on prevention of double taxation with 51 countries. Well, this kind of foreign economic policy and diversified relations, economic relations with a number of countries also have expressed their results in numbers, because our exports are on rise. Only last year, we have had 55.3% rise in our exports. And as you can see on your screens, the destinations have been diversifying as well recently. Next to the traditional markets, Armenia has also seen rise of its exports to new destinations, such as the Gulf countries or China. On your screens, ladies and gentlemen, now you can see some of the major brands that already for years have invested in Armenia. They are creating their success stories, a success story that you can be a part of. For now, I'd like to take a floor, just a little moment, to present the agency that I'm from, Enterprise Armenia, the national investment promotion agency that was set forward by the government to help both local and international investors facilitate their investment inflows into Armenia. How we do this? On a single window basis. We give a comprehensive and free of charge support throughout the whole investment life cycle. And once the investment goes live, we don't stop. There is an aftercare service to ensure that everything that has been promised on the initial stage is delivered, and in case of any issues or challenges, they are solved on a timely manner. At this point, I would like to come to the end of my presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, currently, with stable economic growth, well-educated, competitive and skillful workforce, with diversified economic relations, and with access to major markets, Armenia is ready to transform your investments into innovation. Thank you very much for your attention. Ms. Galian, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found the presentation insightful. As we continue our session, we will move on to dynamic panel discussion that promises to be equally engaging. Please welcome the moderator of today's panel discussion, Mr. Begor Papazian, the Chief Development Officer at TUMO Center for Creative Technologies. Joining us on the panel are Mr. Hakop Arshakyan, Vice President of National Assembly of Republic of Armenia. Mr. Mkhitar Hayrapetyan, Minister of High-Tech Industry of Republic of Armenia. Ms. Zhanna Andreasyan, Minister of Education, Science, Culture and Sports of Republic of Armenia. Dr. Nubar Afeyan, Founder and CEO of Flagship Pioneering and Co-Founder and Chairman of Moderna. Dr. Yerevan Zoryan, President of Synopsys Armenia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel on the knowledge economy and as an engine of innovation. I'm very excited to be the moderator of the panel with the distinguished guests, and I think that exactly the right panelists for this topic. It's a big panel, not just in terms of importance, but also there's 6 of us, limited time, so I would urge you to keep your responses bite-sized and kind of dense with calorie. And I'd like to start immediately with education, of course, with Mrs. Andreasyan. Nicholas Negrobanti said that there are no global problems where education is not part of the solution. And Armenia is not immune to global problems. We also have a couple of very specific ones of our own. I wanted to have you start us off, Ms. Andreasyan, with the government's strategy on education in that context and how, in particular, it might spur on a society that's prone to innovation.
Thank you very much. I hope the accident with me was the only accident for the day. And of course, as you say, education is key, and we see how in previous opening remarks, our speakers also mentioned the importance of human capital and education for the development of the country, and maybe that is the main reason why the education strategy is the only strategy in our country that has the status of the law. So it was approved not only by the government, but also adopted by our National Assembly. And you know, the main idea of the strategy is each person, each of our kids is talented, and the main role of education system is to explore, open up the talents of each kid, of each person, and to have quality education services throughout the whole life cycle. And what is very important, we need to assure that in every community of our country you have the same minimum level of quality education for all. So this is the main idea of the education strategy, and of course it's spread towards the different education levels, starting from primary, preschool education, and up to higher education, and also science, as you see. So, and another fact that I'd like to mention, of course, we are talking about COVID, we are talking a lot of challenges. This is something that has very negative stress on the education system all over the countries. But Armenia is one of the rare countries that throughout all these challenges not decrease the education budget. And this is something that it's not quite specific for all the other countries. And on the contrary, we increased the education budget throughout these years and throughout those challenges, which means that the government provides a high importance for the reforms in education sector. And I should say that despite of all the challenges, our reforms in the education sector doesn't stop in a minute. And we already have quite good results. For example, just bring you a short example from our reform on curriculum for the secondary education. In 2 years, having the pilot, we have more than 6 months of education achievement, which is huge and exceeds the average effect looking at the results of other countries, which means that the quality of education is increasing, and which means that the human capital development is on the right way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to move next to Nubar before coming back to our government representatives. Nubar, I have a number of questions for you, but I'm impatient to get to artificial intelligence immediately, because in addition to being a major player in life sciences and biotech, you're also at the forefront of AI with portfolio companies, I think close to a dozen or more, that are at the leading edge of AI. And this is something that has burst on the scene into the national consciousness after incubating so many years. And for a small country like Armenia, or small companies for that matter, it's not obvious how to position ourselves in this very fast-moving global trend of AI, and would like to get your insights on maybe some strategies for looking at that.
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, I think AI is one of these once-in-a-lifetime disruptions in technology. It has its roots 50 years ago, among them at a university that I've had a long relationship with, MIT, among others. And the most recent version of it really is a transformation of equal, if not greater proportion than what having computers did to general population and communication did with cell phones. The reason for that is that AI essentially does something that our brains otherwise do, which is to create models for reality. In other words, financial models, structural models, models in our brain is how we function. And for the first time, with enough data, we can create models for language, which we have. It's called ChatGPT, among others. We can create models for images. You can take a hand drawing and convert it into a Picasso painting, and you will be very hard-pressed to know that it's not a Picasso painting, unless you study Picasso's art and know what its limits are. These are things that people have no idea what this is going to result in, and you could either be afraid of it, or you could wait for it to develop and then join later on, or, and I think that's the right answer for a country like Armenia, take a dive into the deep end and basically assume that if this is going to happen, it's a unique opportunity, a unique gift. And the reason for that is that AI is an extender of human capability, and in a country that's small, with relatively few highly educated people, comparison to India or China or other places where just by sheer population they have an advantage, we need to multiply the human capability that we have. And I believe that properly used and collaborated with, AI will do that. The last thing I'll say is that the popular description of AI these days is a productivity tool. If you want to write a speech, you should try. Give something a prompt, and it will give you a 10-minute speech, and it'll be 95% a really good speech to deliver. You might think that's great for speech givers, but actually it's great for people who are afraid to give speeches, because for them, it goes from a very uncomfortable experience to as good as anybody else. So that's the traditional way summary reports, filing taxes, everywhere is being used. But the point I'll make to you is the other use of AI, generative AI, is that it will be a revolution to a purely so far human activity, which is imagination. Our brains work in two ways. We either retrieve information and we reason on it. It's called knowledge. And the more knowledge people have, the more smart they seem because they're just retrieving and using knowledge. The other is by imagination. And our imagination, other than arts, isn't used. I'm sure the head of the central bank doesn't really want people using imagination in coming up with what they're trying to do. On the other hand, human imagination is exclusively where innovation comes from. No imagination, no innovation. And suddenly we now have a prosthesis for the brain with which we can imagine. Think of what imagination is. It's taking reality and distorting it towards something that isn't yet real, but with a new element in it. Well, in AI, that's called hallucination. What people criticize ChatGPT of, which is it makes mistakes, those same mistakes is where creativity and innovation comes from. So as a country in Armenia, in our education system, our foundation, the Fast Science Technology Foundation, is focusing on bringing this to the youth. We can dominate chess, which is probably among the most difficult and kind of challenging human activity of old. AI will be the next. So if we want to have every kid in school know how to play chess, we should teach them how to play AI. And with that playfulness, with TUMO and other places, I think we can gain a unique momentary advantage on the world.
Thank you so much. I know that AI is also one of the priorities of the Prime Minister's Council on Science and Technology Development, of which you're the chairman, Mr. Ashakian. I wanted to draw your attention in particular to an observation that Armenia's tech sector, which was very much about computer science and the software, has now diversified much more towards things like even into deep tech, even to space technology, and of course AI. What's your take on that, and what are some of the priorities more generally of the Council and of the government in general?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the question. It's a very important one. The Council's role is basically to look at the new opportunities and the challenges that we are now facing in the high-tech sector, of Armenia. Because I would say the route of development of high-tech in every country, it started from outsourcing. Outsourcing, international companies, then startups, new technologies, innovation, systems, which includes hardware and software, and of course bigger systems like systems of systems like space machines and aircrafts, etc. In this growing dynamics, there it is not a one curve that is bringing you to each level. It has its own way of growing, and every part of it, for example, services, the government needs to have policies that are beneficial for the services growth. For the products and technologies, you need to do something in a other way. This is what we are currently right now trying to identify and finance, because you cannot, once we have limits in investments, in people, in quantity of people, etc. We need to identify exactly what are the where are the opportunities, what are the priorities, and focus on that. So we identified 5 directions. One is AI, which we discussed already today. Another one is microelectronics, where we have almost all the major players in the world in microelectronics. Of course, quantum technologies have been, in Armenia, has traditions in lasers, in optics, and etc. So it is another field of identified priority. Biotech has also a big potential in Armenia, and I'm sure Nubar here and our other people, Garo Arben is leading that direction. They have their own plan how to with their suggestions to the governments. So this is what we are now doing to change the policies, to change the environment, so that it would be beneficial to leapfrog from the services, computer science, general services business to more advanced scientific, technological advancement and innovation business. And of course, our investments in science and education are playing a crucial role here. That's why we could basically focus on education, science, and technology prioritized sectors. And I believe in the near future we'll be able to discuss the suggestions by the working groups so that we make the right decisions and move forward. Of course, we see that tendencies, and our will is to move from computer, software, services business more to the more complicated technology and deep tech business. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I know that, Yerevan, you're a member of the council that Mr. Ashagyan chairs. And you've been involved in Armenia in tech development and education for a long time. But you're also in the middle of this AI and the semiconductor revolution by virtue of being an executive at Synopsys. And of course, if chips are the foundation of AI, the foundation of chips is chip design, which is where you play. With the CHIPS Act in the US, things have become even more active. Can Armenia still keep up? How should we focus on education when it comes to that lowest level of the technology that we're talking about?
Thanks, Pegor. Good question. Yes, the chips are the basis, are the backbone of technology. Whichever products we are building, even AI, became real. It was there for a long time, as Nubar said, but it was not real because the computation power was not there. Once we put them into chips, we are able to do the deep learning. We are able to produce results fast enough so that it can compete with our brains. So as our assistants, they are able to help us these days because of the chips. Now, of course, based on the AIs, we can build lots of applications, whether we're dealing with autonomous vehicles or mixed realities or biotech. In every aspect, we can use the chips, the AI that sits on it, and we can create lots of technologies. In Armenia, we were lucky enough to have invested in the chips domain for a long time. Even during the Soviet time, there was investment in the chips. However, chips move very fast. As you know, we double the speed and we shrink the area twice every year today the most recent chip announced by NVIDIA, which uses lots of blocks from us, has 200 billion transistors in it. To create a chip like that, you need talents. So it comes back to what we said before. The human talent, the human workforce need to be developed properly. And the CHIPS Act today are exactly meant for that. It's not just being independent, being sovereign in the chip area in Europe, in Asia, or in certain countries in Asia, or in the US. Each one of them need to have the proper workforce. And to develop the workforce, we need to do our homework properly. So in Armenia, you're lucky that we have done that workforce development for a number of years. For a couple of decades now, university programs are feeding research, which is feeding R&D, very nicely as a pipeline in this particular CHIPS area, such that there is no gap between what you teach and train and what the R&D needs in the industry. So that gap that exists elsewhere, here you don't have it, because there's immediate implementation of the results. That's why I think Armenia could be a very good model to the CHIPS Act activities in the US, in Europe, as we can reuse the model that we created here, from education to research to actual development easily. Thanks.
That's fascinating. Again, we're talking about technology, high tech, it's inevitable, and we have with us the Minister of High Tech Industry. Not all countries have ministries of high tech, and I wanted to ask you, Mr. Haydarabedian, the fact that we have one must be a reflection of a specific vision that the government has. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and then we can circle back to the strategy that you're working on.
First of all, let me say thanks to the organizers for this unique opportunity to address to the attendees and say congratulations to all of us, the Government of Armenia. It's a huge event for us to host the annual meeting of EBRD here in Yerevan. So thanks again for this opportunity. Yes, as you mentioned, because not all the countries on this planet have the Ministry of High Technologies, and as the 5th Minister of High Tech Ministry, I would say that Mr. Arshakyan was the founding minister of the ministry, and if by talking about the main mission of our ministry, if I make some mistakes about that, I would love to hear some corrections from you. How do I see the main reason and that the government in 2019 has made such a important decision to have its separate institution inside the government was, I guess there was two main reasons. First of all, that the reason was that we were thinking about how to have a new structure of the economy, and the technologies and especially high-tech industry was going to be the main core in all the spheres and all of the economy, whether it's related to agriculture or services or energy sector of it. Wherever we see we can have a new technological solutions everywhere. So this is the mission that the ministry has to somehow make some bridges and ties between all the sectors inside the economy of Armenia. And so the reason was to create an opportunities for the whole economy and the structure of the economy to bring this technological solutions as a core of the, and as locomotive of the whole economy of the Republic of Armenia, as an engine of it. The second reason, I guess, was that we were we had a dream to become a country that would generate new technological solutions for not only for our country, but also to provide it to the other countries and to export new solutions for them, for the solution of global challenges that we nowadays are facing. So kind of becoming a useful country for the whole world and the humanity. So those were two motivations that the government has by making such an important decision. I hope that at the end we will just sum up and evaluate that the decision to have a separate ministry could be a good one by the government.
Thank you so much. Yes, so tech is inevitable, but we keep circling back to education, and we'll do that now. One of the chief economists of the World Bank recently wrote an op-ed about Armenia, where he suggested that Armenian universities be consolidated and merged with some of our research institutions as a way of promoting education reforms in Armenia, and the government seems to be doing exactly that, in particular with the academic city, which was adopted last year into I think, law. And I would like to give you a chance, Mrs. Andreasen, to talk about this really very central initiative that's in progress.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. This is maybe one of the biggest, if not the biggest project of the current government. And of course, it's had two components. From Soviet times, we have these separate systems of higher education, universities, and research institutes. And all of us understand that nowadays quality higher education cannot happen if we don't have a very well integrated research component in the higher education. And one of our main targets is to consolidate higher education institutions, universities with research, to have really good environment for quality work, both for education and also for the science, because as already also mentioned by other participants, we have quite good traditions in some of areas of science, but what we really need to also promote young scientists in the sector, and in this regard, consolidating universities with research institutes also provide an institutional opportunity for young researchers from universities start their research and also develop all the ideas that they have. So to have the environment for all this work, of course, we need some special conditions, some really convenient environment for all of this to happen. And academic city should be the space for all this research and education, and not only, because what we are thinking about academic city, it will be the full city. So territory for the academic city is huge. It's about 700 hectares. It's quite near, when we think about location, it's quite near to the Yerevan, but at the same time, it's not really in Yerevan. It's just also located in such a way that in 3 regions we'll have very big access to the city, and it's very close to the main infrastructure, such as South-North Corridor. It's very close to the airports, both Zvartnots and Gyumri Airport. And when we think about the location, we choose the locations that would be very accessible from each part of the country. And we are now working with one of the most prestigious companies, German company, GMP International, and they are finalizing the master plan for academic city, which we are expecting would have by the end of June, and then we will be ready to start the design of the main buildings for the academic city. Of course, we propose to have open tenders for all the components, and I hope that our also international partners would be active in participating all those components. And we are also in the process of developing investment project for the whole academic city, which also means that we'll be happy to have some partnerships, more partnerships for for the further stages of this big project. It would be a city for about 50,000 people. Lecturers, students, researchers, some of them would be coming and going throughout the day. The others would be staying there. So would have also dormitories, would have cafes, restaurants, hotels. We'll have special areas for startups, for private companies to be presented there. And I'm very happy that we already have very strong interest from the technological companies to be presented in academic city. We also have there some art complexes. We'll have modern concert hall. We'll have national stadium there. And it means that we'll have the whole city of different experiences, and also for the intellectual environment, intellectual entertainment. And of course, it would require several years to come to the reality, but we are working hard, and it's already quite amazing what we have now.
Thank you so much. In sort of a rough timeline, several years, when do you think the first tenants, the first institutions might start moving in? Are we talking about a decade or several years?
Our plan is the first universities will start to operate in academic city in 5 years.
Looking forward to it. In preparing for this panel, I've spoke with all of you, and Nubar, one of the things that was fascinating from our conversation, but I didn't get the full detail, was a strategy for Armenia about integrating into global networks, which you mentioned briefly. Either in that sense or in general, what are some ways Armenia can accelerate its development towards an innovating society, given sometimes how isolated we are geographically and in other ways?
Yeah, well, I think even though the country has had its most recent, let's say, free existence for the last 3 decades, it's still very early in developing global networks. And in particular, I think the most logical networks will go through diasporan Armenians around the world. Diasporan Armenians, this might sound strange, but I'll say it anyway, come in 2 varieties. There are Armenian Americans, and then there's American Armenians. Armenian Americans consider themselves American, but they have a reason to care about Armenia, a little bit. But there are a lot of American Armenians who consider themselves Armenians who happen to be living in the US. And I think sometimes we lose the distinction. Yerevan is, in my view, an American Armenian. It's being televised, and he can decide or not. I'm an American Armenian because when I'm here, I consider this my homeland. I wasn't born here. 500 years of my family has not been born here, but it just doesn't matter. Tapping into that community and using their influence globally in order to lower the activation barrier of multinationals to come do things here. Yerevan's example is a good one, but we can have hundreds. He should not be the only good example. And I think to do that, we should think about long-term economic strategy in the country, high-tech strategy in the country, to incorporate the multitude of tentacles that cultural connection to this country has and how it can be used. I happen to be, for example, just in one example, in Davos, as well as there's many Armenians who go to Davos. Very few of them are Armenians from here. But when I'm there, and the president of Armenia was also there, many of the CEOs of companies that I know are much more accessible to him if I'm actually working with him than if he has to go and meet them and introduce himself. This is the case in universities. MIT, Stanford, we have Armenians on the executive boards of all of these universities. How are we using them to actually lower the activation energy for those institutions to do partnerships? I'll give you an example. In Russia, 15 years ago, there was a big effort to build similar academic centers. It was called Skolkovo University and eventually became Skoltech. What you may not realize is that MIT did a big partnership with Skolkovo University. Skolkovo University's fundamental founder was Ruben Vartanian, my friend, and he used my relationship with MIT to bring MIT to Russia. I haven't used my relationship with MIT to do anything here, but I would look forward for not just me, I'm giving myself as an example because I'm here, but there are hundreds of such people. Artem Pataputian, Nobel Prize winning scientist. Okay, he can visit here, we can give him a stamp. The question is, how does he become a soldier for the future of Armenia economically? How do we want to get him engaged, and how do we want him to feel that this is part of his life activity? So I think we have a lot of work to do. We don't have 30 years to do it, and I'm very encouraged by this government's willingness to take risks, take bold moves. The biggest bold move they have to do is to learn how to use their worldwide influence through diaspora and Armenians.
Yeah, that's very exciting, and it's exciting also because it seems very actionable. It seems like it could lead to strategic and policy decisions, including by the government. And speaking of that in general, of course, the government is always faced with trying to direct developments through policy. And I'd like to open up the floor to all of you and see who wants to take this first, but it's always been an open question whether the government and others should place bets on specific technologies, specific priorities. You mentioned some of them, but there was a very broad list, Mr. Rashakian. Or whether a more skeptical, market-driven approach should be taken, whether that's in higher education or industrial policy, if you will, or strategies at the level of the Prime Minister's Council. Who would like? Would you like to go first, Mr. Rashakian?
I think when we are talking about the identification of specific directions, it always comes to knowledge. And this advisory board's function is really to see where Armenia could be well positioned. For example, I say artificial intelligence and machine learning. It is very wide. It could be used in agriculture, it could be used in governance, it could be used in biotech, everywhere, right? But the working group that was formed, and the majority of them are diaspora and Armenians, and of course local local entrepreneurs and scientists who have that knowledge. And this knowledge is basically mostly accumulated in research institutions and multinational companies who also has their own research institutions inside their companies. And this knowledge is accumulated. I agree that diaspora and Armenians have big roles in these big institutions and companies, and they see the future. They see what will be happening with the technology in 50 years, 100 years, because they plan. They plan. When they see in the executive bodies, in the boards, in the CEO positions, major positions, they plan and they see and they invest in their laboratories, in their innovation laboratories. So we need to see, if we need to see the future, we really need to listen to these people who are innovators in their particular fields. And this is a main role and the function of these people who are being engaged as members of the Council on Technology Development to the Prime Minister. And our ways to identify broad, and then the working groups identify more specifically, and then come up with examples of how we can invest and where we should invest in education, science, and technology, and who are the players whom we should rely on inside Armenia and outside of Armenia, people and organizations. So this is the way, and I think that focusing on these specific directions and this specific knowledge, bringing them in would be beneficial. And this is I think I have never seen such an experience in Armenia. Maybe there were tries, but I have never seen something holistic that you can see. So I do 1, 2, 3 ABC in education, and I do ABC in science, and these are the players. Here, where I invest, and this is the amount. And this is the place I want to be in the using these investments. I've never seen this kind of a plan, and I would say that it is not only about Armenia. In the world, if you look at the leapfrogged countries in technology, all of them had the plan, and none of the countries that has no plan, it doesn't have have an advancement in technology. So this is obvious, and these efforts are, and I am thankful to the members of the Council because they invest their time and they are not paid for this. And I'm sure that it will bring its results, and I encourage also others, diasporans or local Armenians who want to be a part of this, to approach these group leaders so that we have a comprehensive plan. Thank you.
So if I had to characterize your response, it does seem on the spectrum to fall more towards planning and strategic investments and somewhat direct investments.
Yes, and the most important one is to decide where we do invest and what we are going to change with this investment.
Right. Placing bets. Mr. Ayrabedian, if I could, I know that your ministry is developing a strategy about high tech in particular, and I'm wondering, with respect to this kind of strategic approach, where does it fall on that spectrum, and what's the timeline for the strategy?
Thanks. It's almost 2 months ago we initiated workshops just to understand what does this path looks like that we are going to pass, to have this strategic paper or document which will give the answer to all of those questions, as we have already mentioned, because we still have a lot of discussions about whether Armenia is going to be a champion in chip design or semiconductor manufacturing or system manufacturing. We have talked a lot. But it's not going to be up to us or individual decisions, because we all together, both the government and also the private sector and the technological community, where are the main role players are involved. We are going to give the answers to these questions. I guess in 6-8 months we will have the final document. So we are actively working on this paper, but before that I can share what we are focused on for now, what we have done so far, just to share our current works that we are working for now, to define our term and to somehow shape the future of Armenia's high-tech landscape. So firstly, I would say that the Ministry of High Tech is, I would love to emphasize our commitment to fostering ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship, because we are thinking that by the legislative improvements and other reforms, we have to make a new environment with a lot of opportunities for the businesses, but from the second hand also for the talented individuals and the groups of talented people to come to Armenia to work here, to bring new investments to Armenia related to the high-tech sector. So it's because we are trying to position Armenia in the world technological map as, let's say, a regional hub of innovation and opportunities. Secondly, I would say that we are mostly focused also on, as it was already mentioned, on human capital development programs, because of course we have talked about the new tools that human brain, human mind has created so far, AI, whether it's AI or quantum technologies or computing science. But anyway, those are still remaining as tools that the human being is going to control, to use for making the world a better place. So this is why putting more and more investments in the human capital through the education, through science, to R&D sector, it's quite important for the government of Armenia, because we are thinking that it's still the resource that is reproducible for us. So this is why we want to make more competitive community in the global marketplace. Third, I would mention that we are trying to create or put more investments in high-tech infrastructure, hard infrastructure, especially taking into consideration the fact that we are living now in, let's say, interconnected world, where such kind of projects are quite important for our country. For example, submarine cable, which is going to connect fiber optic cable, which is going to connect Europe to Armenia, and we hope that it will not stop in Armenia. It will also try to make some bridges and networks to Persian Gulf also, maybe further. So Armenia is trying to find new solutions to make this project come true. Also 5G network development program, which is one in our scope. So we are in negotiations with both international organizations and also with private telecom sector. Also, cybersecurity is also one of the priority sectors for the government, because by making investment in cybersecurity sector, we are trying to reassure ourselves that Armenia is going to be at the top of as a technological within the technological world revolution. And also, I would say that at the end, I would say that it's also very important for the government to make and strengthen ties with the both the international organizations and also Armenian diaspora players that have been involved for decades in the technology sector. So we are going to use these opportunities to bring more and more competencies to Armenia.
Thank you, Mr. Harabetian. Did anyone else want to come in on this dichotomy I set up between more planned versus agnostic market-driven? Please.
Yeah, let me make a quick comment. Pegor, what we have seen in the past decades was a bottom-up approach, where our companies came, created value, created human capital, products, and advanced. It was all bottom-up, reactionary, I would say, based on the needs of the industry, and we did very well. We grew. We are at a certain point. There are about 30,000 people working in the IT domain today, making about 7% of the GDP. Now, this is a success story. However, if we would like to grow further, and that comes back to the council, that comes back to the strategic plans, we need to do something more. We need to be more strategic in our thinking, more think forward. And now, with the possibility of our companies or our experts in diaspora and here working with the government, we can think of it strategically. We can think ahead. Where should we invest in education, in research, such that the newer fields are well covered? That's the only way we can grow. And of course, investment is needed there as well. EBRD or others will come to play their role. But a strategic mind is necessary in order to be able to advance further and move from 30,000 people to 150,000 people, to create much more advanced technology and go back to us, to Silicon Valley, to bring those products and those talents to produce much more. So I think the strategic thinking is important at this stage.
That's very clear. Thank you. I see Gohar is up here, which hopefully means I have one more question I can ask, very brief one, just to Mrs. Andreasyan, to end with education. And it concerns this observation that Armenia is very active in terms of informal education sectors. We have FAST Foundation, Teach for Armenia, ARMA, TUMO, and others playing very active roles. Is that a good thing? How do you see that as part of the strategy?
It's, of course, a good thing. It's one of the things in Armenian education system that we need to foster more. And I think that, of course, especially after the COVID, it's obvious that formal education cannot do anything alone. And now what we see that non-formal education structures, methods, approaches somehow have been integrated with formal education. And in contemporary world, we need to think about the overall ecosystem. So formal and non-formal education should be part of the system. And of course, all the organizations that you mentioned and also that you present, they are good partners of the ministry, and we are working together on very different projects. For example, we mentioned AI. And together with Mr. Zoryan and also with FAST Foundation, we started AI course in our schools as a pilot, one of the first countries taking into account all the countries in the world. We already have this AI course in our schools, which is a good example how we can do things together. Another our project, we are talking about resilience of Sunnic region, and there we also have joint projects together with non-formal education. There would be have 2 co-op centers, TUMO would be presented there, and we also from the government side are totally reorganizing and constructing new buildings for schools. So there would be have formal and non-formal education working together for the quality education ecosystem for our kids. So I think that this is one of the strong sides of Armenian education system, and we can see also that this is becoming part of our expert, because TUMO is presented in several countries, and there is a growing interest by different countries to have TUMO in their cities. The same we have with ARMAT laboratories, with robotics, engineering, which is non-formal education developing in our schools as part of our school environment. So this is one of the strongest aspects of our education, and from our side we'll by all means foster the further development and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll have to end with that, not because we've exhausted the topic, but because Gohar is here. So please, thank you very much.
Because I'm out of time. Thank you, honorable speakers. As we come to the end of our session, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who has contributed to its success. To all our audience joining us both here and virtually, thank you for your active participation. Your presence and contribution have made this session truly meaningful. Thank you once again.